for freedom, yet grappling with internal divisions. This is the story of British India, a period marked by a series of constitutional reforms that aimed to balance British control with Indian aspirations. As Indian nationalism surged, demands for self-governance grew louder. However, the path to independence was fraught with challenges, including deep-rooted social and religious divisions. This video will explore the key milestones in this journey, from the limited reforms of the early 20th century to the landmark Government of India Act of 1935, and analyze how these reforms shaped the destiny of the subcontinent. For centuries, India had been a land of diverse cultures and kingdoms. British rule, established through the East India Company, brought about significant changes, including the introduction of modern administrative systems and infrastructure. However, it also brought about a sense of subjugation and a growing desire for self-determination among the Indian people. In 1909, the Morley-Minto Reforms were introduced. These reforms increased Indian representation in legislative councils, but also introduced separate electorates for Muslims. This controversial decision, while intended to address Muslim concerns, would have profound and unintended consequences. It sowed the seeds of communal division and ultimately contributed to the partition of India decades later. In 1919, the Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms aimed to introduce a system of gradual self-government. The concept of Dyarchy was introduced, dividing subjects into transferred and reserved lists. Indians were given control over transferred subjects like education and local self-government, while British officials retained control over reserved subjects like law and order. This system, while intended to empower Indians, often led to friction and inefficiency. Simon Commission and Roundtable Conferences in 1927, the Simon Commission, appointed to review the progress of the Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, was boycotted by Indians who demanded full independence and opposed an all-British commission. This led to a series of roundtable conferences between 1930 and 1932. These conferences brought together Indian leaders, British officials, and representatives of various communities to discuss the future of India. However, they were plagued by disagreements and failed to reach a consensus on key issues like the nature of self-government and the rights of minorities. Government of India Act 1935 and 1935, the Government of India Act was passed. This landmark legislation established a federal structure with a central government and provincial governments. While it provided for limited self-government in provinces, it fell short of granting complete independence. The Act introduced provincial autonomy, allowing elected Indian governments to govern in certain areas. However, the powers of the central government remained largely under British control. Key figures and their impact this period saw the rise of prominent leaders who shaped the course of Indian history. Mahatma Gandhi, with his philosophy of non-violent resistance, led the Indian National Congress. Jawaharlal Nehru, a key figure in the Congress, advocated for a strong, united India. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, leader of the Muslim League, increasingly emphasized the need for a separate Muslim state. The differences in perspective between these leaders and the growing communal tensions cast a long shadow over the future of India. Let's recap the key milestones on this timeline of constitutional reforms: the Morley-Minto Reforms, the Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, the Simon Commission, the Roundtable Conferences, and finally, the Government of India Act of 1935. These reforms, while offering some progress towards self-rule, also sowed the seeds of future conflict. The legacy of these reforms continues to shape India's political landscape today. The struggle for independence continued, culminating in the partition of India and the creation of two independent nations in 1947.